Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Rothschild family. Greater than the Rothschild family is a wealthy family descending from Mayer Amschel Rothschild, a court due to the German Landgraves of Hesse-Kassel in the Free City of Frankfurt, who established his banking business in the 1760s. Unlike most previous court Jews, Rothschild managed to bequeath his wealth and established an international banking family through his 5 sons, who established themselves in London, Paris, Frankfurt, Vienna, and Naples. During the 19th century, the Rothschild family possessed the largest private fortune in the world, as well as the largest private fortune in modern world history. The family's wealth was divided among various descendants, and today their interests cover a diverse range of fields, including financial services, real estate, mining, energy, mixed farming, winemaking and non-profits. The Rothschild family has frequently been the subject of conspiracy theories, many of which are anti-Semitic. Family overview. The first member of the family who was known to use the name of Rothschild was Isaac Elchanan Rothschild, born in 1577. The name is derived from the German zum roten Schild, meaning, with the red sign, in reference to the house where the family lived for many generations. The family's ascent to international prominence began in 1744. With the birth of Mayer Amschel Rothschild in Frankfurt am Main, Germany. He was the son of Amschel Moses Rothschild, a money changer who had traded with the Prince of Hesse. Born in the Judengasse, the ghetto of Frankfurt, Mayer developed a finance house and spread his empire by installing each of his 5 sons in the 5 main European financial centers to conduct business. The Rothschild coat of arms contains a clenched fist, with 5 arrows symbolizing the 5 dynasties established by the 5 sons of Mayer Rothschild, in a reference to Psalm chapter 127, like arrows in the hands of a warrior, so are the children of one's youth. The family motto appears below the shield: Concordia Integritas Industria. Paul Johnson writes, He Rothschilds are elusive. There is no book about them that is both revealing and accurate. Libraries of nonsense have been written about them. A woman who planned to write a book entitled Lies About the Rothschilds abandoned it, saying, it was relatively easy to spot the lies, but it proved impossible to find out the truth. He writes that, unlike the court Jews of earlier centuries, who had financed and managed European noble houses, but often lost their wealth through violence or expropriation, the new kind of international bank created by the Rothschilds was impervious to local attacks. Their assets were held in financial instruments, circulating through the world's stocks, bonds, and debts. Changes made by the Rothschilds allowed them to insulate their property from local violence. Henceforth their real wealth was beyond the reach of the mob, almost beyond the reach of greedy monarchs. Johnson argued that their fortune was generated to the greatest extent by Nathan Mayer Rothschild in London. However, more recent research by Niall Ferguson indicates that greater and equal profits also were realized by the other Rothschild dynasties, including James Mayer de Rothschild in Paris, Karl Mayer von Rothschild in Naples and Amschel Mayer Rothschild in Frankfurt. Another essential part of Mayer Rothschild's strategy for success was to keep control of their banks in family hands, allowing them to maintain full secrecy about the size of their fortunes. In about 1906, the Jewish Encyclopedia noted, the practice initiated by the Rothschilds of having several brothers of a firm establish branches in the different financial centers was followed by other Jewish financiers, like the Bischofsheims, Pereira, Seligmans, Lazards and others, and these financiers by their integrity and financial skill obtained credit not alone with their Jewish confreres, but with the banking fraternity in general. By this means, Jewish financiers obtained an increasing share of international finance during the middle and last quarter of the 19th century. The head of the whole group was the Rothschild family. It also states, of more recent years, non-Jewish financiers have learned the same cosmopolitan method, and, on the whole, the control is now rather less than more in Jewish hands than formerly. Mayer Rothschild successfully kept the fortune in the family with carefully arranged marriages, often between first or second cousins. By the late 19th century, however, almost all Rothschilds had started to marry outside the family, usually into the aristocracy or other financial dynasties. His sons were. The German family name, Rothschild, is pronounced in German, unlike in English. The surname, Rothschild, is rare in Germany. The German surname, Rothschild, is not related to the Protestant surname, Rothschilds. From the United Kingdom. Families. By country, 5 lines of the Austrian branch of the family have been elevated to Austrian nobility, being given 5 hereditary titles of barons of the Habsburg Empire by Emperor Francis II in 1816. Another line, of the British branch of the family, was elevated by Queen Victoria, who granted the family 2 hereditary titles of baronet and baron. Research conducted by Great Game India magazine has revealed that the Rothschild family was one of the controller families of the East India Company. The Napoleonic Wars. The Rothschilds already possessed a significant fortune before the start of the Napoleonic Wars, and the family had gained preeminence in the bullion trade by this time. From London in 1813 to 1815, Nathan Mayer Rothschild was instrumental in almost single-handedly financing the British war effort, organizing the shipment of bullion to the Duke of Wellington's armies across Europe, as well as arranging the payment of British financial subsidies to their continental allies. In 1815 alone, the Rothschilds provided £9.8 million in subsidy loans to Britain's continental allies. The brothers helped coordinate Rothschild activities across the continent, and the family developed a network of agents, shippers and couriers to transport gold across war-torn Europe. The family network was also to provide Nathan Rothschild time and again with political and financial information ahead of his peers, giving him an advantage in the markets and rendering the House of Rothschild still more invaluable to the British government. In one instance, the family network enabled Nathan to receive in London the news of Wellington's victory at the Battle of Waterloo a full day ahead of the government's official messengers. Rothschild's first concern on this occasion was not to the potential financial advantage on the market which the knowledge would have given him. He and his courier immediately took the news to the government. It was then repeated in later popular accounts, such as that of Morton. The basis for the Rothschilds' most famously profitable move was made after the news of British victory had been made public. Nathan Rothschild calculated that the future reduction in government borrowing brought about by the peace would create a bounce in British government bonds after a 2-year stabilization, which would finalize the post-war restructuring of the domestic economy in what has been described as one of the most audacious moves in financial history. Nathan immediately bought up the government bond market, for what, at the time, seemed an excessively high price, before waiting 2 years. then selling the bonds on the crest of a short bounce in the market in 1817 for a 40% profit. Given the sheer power of leverage the Rothschild family had at their disposal, this profit was an enormous sum. Nathan Mayer Rothschild started his business in Manchester in 1806 and gradually moved it to London, where in 1809 he acquired the location at 2 New Courtin Street, Swithin's Lane, City of London, where it operates today. He established N.M. Rothschild and Sons in 1811. In 1818, he arranged the £5 million loan to the Prussian government, and the issuing of bonds for government loans formed a mainstay of his bank's business. He gained a position of such power in the City of London that by 1825–26 he was able to supply enough coin to the Bank of England to enable it to avert a market liquidity crisis. International high finance. In 1816, 4 of the brothers were each elevated to the hereditary nobility by Austrian Emperor Francis I. Moreover, a 5th brother, Nathan, was elevated in 1818. All of them were granted the Austrian title of Baron of Freyer on 29 September 1822. As such, some members of the family used "Dor von Rothschild" to acknowledge the grant of nobility. Barons who received their title from the Holy Roman Emperor or after Holy Roman Empire's 1806 dissolution under Francis II, from the Austrian and later Austro-Hungarian Emperor are known as Barons of the Holy Roman Empire. Reichsfreiherren, although the title is sometimes shortened to Freiherr. In 1847, Sir Anthony de Rothschild was made a hereditary baronet of the United Kingdom. In 1885, Nathan Mayer Rothschild II of the London branch of the family was granted the hereditary peerage title Baron Rothschild in the Peerage of the United Kingdom. Rothschild family banking businesses pioneered international high finance during the industrialization of Europe, and were instrumental in supporting railway systems across the world, and in complex government financing for projects such as the Suez Canal. During the 19th century, the family bought up a large proportion of the property in Mayfair, London. The Rothschild family was directly involved in the independence of Brazil from Portugal in the early 19th century. Upon an agreement, the Brazilian government should pay a compensation of £2 million to the Kingdom of Portugal to accept Brazil's independence. N.M. Rothschild and Sons was preeminent in raising this capital for the government of the newly formed Empire of Brazil on the London market. In 1825, Nathan Rothschild raised £2 million, and indeed was probably discreetly involved in the earlier tranche of this loan, which raised £1 million in 1824. Part of the price of Portuguese recognition of Brazilian independence, secured in 1825, was that Brazil should take over repayment of the principal and interest on a £1,500,000 loan made to the Portuguese government in 1823 by N.M. Rothschild and Sons. A correspondence from Samuel Phillips & Co. in 1824 suggests the close involvement of the Rothschilds in the occasion. Major 19th-century businesses founded with Rothschild family capital include the family-funded Cecil Rhodes in the creation of the African colony of Rhodesia. From the late 1880s onwards, the family took over control of the Rio Tinto mining company. The Japanese government approached the London and Paris families for funding during the Russo-Japanese War. The London Consortium's issue of Japanese war bonds would total £11.5 million. The name of Rothschild became synonymous with extravagance and great wealth, and The family was renowned for its art collecting, for its palaces, as well as for its philanthropy. By the end of the century, the family owned, or had built, at the lowest estimates, over 41 palaces, of a scale and luxury perhaps unparalleled even by the richest royal families. The British Chancellor of the Exchequer Lloyd George claimed, in 1909, that Lord Nathan Rothschild was the most powerful man in Britain. In 1901, with no male heir, the Frankfurt house closed its doors after more than a century in business. It was not until 1989 that the family returned, when N.M. Rothschild and Sons, the British investment arm, plus Bank Rothschild AG, the Swiss branch, set up a representative banking office in Frankfurt. Niles' Weekly Register, Volume 49 had the following to say about the Rothschilds' influence on international high finance in 1836. British branch. The Rothschild banking family of the United Kingdom was founded in 1798 by Nathan Mayer Rothschild, who first settled in Manchester, but then moved to London. Nathan Mayer von Rothschild, the third son of Mayer Amschel Rothschild, first established a textile jobbing business in Manchester and from there went on to establish N.M. Rothschild and Sons Bank in London. During the early part of the 19th century, the Rothschilds' London Bank took a leading part in managing and financing the subsidies that the British government transferred to its allies during the Napoleonic Wars, through the creation of a network of agents, couriers and shippers. The bank was able to provide funds to the armies of the Duke of Wellington in Portugal and Spain, therefore funding war. The providing of other innovative and complex financing for government projects formed a mainstay of the bank's business. For the better part of the century, N.M. Rothschild and Sons' financial strength in the City of London became such that by 1825–26, the bank was able to supply enough coin to the Bank of England to enable it to avert a liquidity crisis. Nathan Mayer's eldest son, Lionel de Rothschild, succeeded him as head of the London branch. Under Lionel, the bank financed the British government's 1875 purchase of Egypt's interest in the Suez Canal. The Rothschild Bank also funded Cecil Rhodes in the development of the British South Africa Company, and Leopold de Rothschild administered Rhodes' estate after his death in 1902 and helped to set up the Rhodes Scholarship Scheme at the University of Oxford. In 1873, de Rothschild Frere in France and N.M. Rothschild and Sons of London joined with other investors to acquire the Spanish government's money-losing Rio Tinto copper mines. The new owners restructured the company and turned it into a profitable business. By 1905, the Rothschild interest in Rio Tinto amounted to more than 30%. In 1887, the French and British Rothschild banking houses loaned money to, and invested in, the De Beers diamond mines in South Africa, becoming its largest shareholders. The London banking house continued under the management of Lionel Nathan de Rothschild and his brother Anthony Gustave de Rothschild, and then to Sir Evelyn de Rothschild in 2003. Following Sir Evelyn's retirement as head of N.M. Rothschild and Sons of London, the British and French financial firms merged under the leadership of David René de Rothschild. French branches. There are two branches of the family connected to France. The first was son James Mayer de Rothschild, known as James, who established de Rothschild Frere in Paris. Following the Napoleonic Wars, he played a major role in financing the construction of railways and the mining business that helped make France an industrial power. By 1980, The Paris business employed about 2,000 people and had an annual turnover of 26 billion francs. But then the Paris business suffered a near-death blow in 1982, when the socialist government of François Mitterrand nationalized and renamed it Compagnie Européenne de Banque. Baron David de Rothschild, then 39, decided to stay and rebuild, creating a new entity, Rothschild and Cie Bank, with just 3 employees and €830,000 in capital. Today the Paris operation has 22 partners and accounts for a significant part of the global business. Ensuing generations of the Paris Rothschild family remained involved in the family business, becoming a major force in international investment banking. The Rothschilds have since led the Thomson Financial League tables in investment banking merger and acquisition deals in the UK, France and Italy. James Mayer de Rothschild's other son, Edmund James de Rothschild, was very much engaged in philanthropy and the arts, and was a leading proponent of Zionism. His grandson, Baron Edmund Adolf de Rothschild, founded in 1953 the LCF Rothschild Group, a private bank. Since 1997, Baron Benjamin de Rothschild chairs the group. The group has €100 billion of assets in 2008, and owns many wine properties in France, in Australia or in South Africa. In 1961, the 35-year-old Edmund Adolf de Rothschild purchased the company Club Med after he had visited a resort and enjoyed his stay. His interest in Club Med was sold off by the 1990s. In 1973, he bought out the Bank of California, selling his interests in 1984 before it was sold to Mitsubishi Bank in 1985. The second French branch was founded by Nathaniel de Rothschild. Born in London, he was the 4th child of the founder of the British branch of the family, Nathan Mayer Rothschild. In 1850, Nathaniel Rothschild moved to Paris to work with his uncle James Mayer Rothschild. In 1853, Nathaniel acquired Château Brand-Mouton, a vineyard in Port-Ilac in the Gironde département. Nathaniel Rothschild renamed the estate Château Mouton Rothschild, and it would become one of the best-known labels in the world. In 1868, Nathaniel's uncle, James Mayer de Rothschild, acquired the neighboring Château Lafite vineyard. Austrian branch. In Vienna, Salomon Mayer Rothschild established a bank in the 1820s, and the Austrian family had vast wealth and position. The crash of 1929 brought problems, and Baron Louis von Rothschild attempted to shore up the credit and stalled Austria's largest bank to prevent its collapse. Nevertheless, during the Second World War they had to surrender their bank to the Nazis and flee the country. Their Rothschild palaces, a collection of vast palaces in Vienna built and owned by the family, were confiscated, plundered, and destroyed by the Nazis. The palaces were famous for their sheer size and for the huge collections of paintings, armor, tapestries and statues. All family members escaped the Holocaust, some of them moving to the United States, and returning to Europe only after the war. In 1999, the government of Austria agreed to return to the Rothschild family some 250 art treasures looted by the Nazis and absorbed into state museums after the war. Naples branch. The CM de Rothschild and Figli Bank arranged substantial loans to the Papal States and to various kings of Naples plus the Duchy of Parma and the Grand Duchy of Tuscany. However, in the 1830s, Naples followed Spain with a gradual shift away from conventional bond issues that began to affect the bank's growth and profitability. the unification of Italy in 1861, with the ensuing decline of the Italian aristocracy who had been the Rothschilds' primary clients, eventually brought about the closure of their Naples bank, due to a forecasted decline in the sustainability of the business over the long term. However, in the early 19th century, the Rothschild family of Naples built up close relations with the Vatican Bank, and the association between the family and the Vatican continued into the 20th century. In 1832, when Pope Gregory XVI was seen meeting Karl von Rothschild, observers were shocked that Rothschild was not required to kiss the Pope's feet, as was then required for all other visitors to the Pope, including monarchs. The 1906 Jewish Encyclopedia described the Rothschilds as the guardians of the papal treasure. Jewish identity and positions on Zionism. Jewish solidarity in the family was not homogeneous. Many Rothschilds were supporters of Zionism, while other members of the family opposed the creation of the Jewish state. Lord Victor Rothschild was against granting asylum or helping Jewish refugees during the Holocaust. In 1917, Walter Rothschild, 2nd Baron Rothschild, was the addressee of the Balfour Declaration to the Zionist Federation, which committed the British government to the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. After the death of James Jacob de Rothschild in 1868, his eldest son Alphonse Rothschild took over the management of the family bank, and was the most active in support for Eretz Israel. The Rothschild family archives show that during the 1870s the family contributed nearly 500,000 francs per year on behalf of Eastern Jewry to the Alliance Israelite Universal. Baron Edmund James de Rothschild, youngest son of James Jacob de Rothschild, was a patron of the first settlement in Palestine at Rishon LeZion, and bought from Ottoman landlords parts of the land which now makes up present-day Israel. In 1924, he established the Palestine Jewish Colonization Association, which acquired more than of land and set up business ventures. In Tel Aviv, the Rothschild Boulevard is named after him, as are a number of localities throughout Israel which he assisted in founding, including Metella, Zikron Yaakov, Rishon LeZion and Rosh Pina, a park in Boulogne-Billancourt, Paris. The park Edmund de Rothschild is also named after its founder. The Rothschilds also played a significant part in the funding of Israel's governmental infrastructure. James A. de Rothschild financed the Knesset building as a gift to the State of Israel, and the Supreme Court of Israel building was donated to Israel by Dorothy de Rothschild. Outside the President's chamber is displayed the letter Mrs. Rothschild wrote to the then current Prime Minister Shimon Peres expressing her intention to donate a new building for the Supreme Court. Interviewed by Haaretz in 2010, Baron Benjamin Rothschild, a Swiss-based member of the banking family, said that he supported the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. "I understand that it is a complicated business, mainly because of the fanatics and extremists. And I am talking about both sides. I think you have fanatics in Israel. In general, I am not in contact with politicians. I spoke once with Netanyahu. I met once with an Israeli finance minister, but the less I mingle with politicians the better I feel." Due to a dispute with the Israeli tax authorities, the Baron refuses to visit Israel. But his wife Arianda Rothschild often visits Israel, where she manages the Caesarea Foundation. She says, "It is insulting that the state, Israel, casts doubt on us. If there is a family that does not have to prove its commitment to Israel, it's ours." The Rothschild Group. Since 2003, a group of Rothschild banks have been controlled by Rothschild Continuation Holdings, a Swiss-registered holding company. Rothschild Continuation Holdings is in turn controlled by Concordia BV, a Dutch-registered master holding company. Concordia BV is managed by Paris Orléans SA, a French-registered holding company. Paris Orléans SA is ultimately controlled by Rothschild Concordia SAS, a Rothschild's family holding company. Rothschild & CIE Bank controls Rothschild banking businesses in France and continental Europe, while Rothschild's Continuation Holdings AG controls a number of Rothschild banks elsewhere, including NM Rothschild & Sons in London. 20% of Rothschild Continuation Holdings AG was sold in 2005 to Jardine Strategic, which is a subsidiary of Jardine, Matheson & Co. of Hong Kong. In November 2008, Rabobank Group, the leading investment and private bank in the Netherlands, acquired 7.5% of Rothschild Continuation Holdings AG, and Rabobank and Rothschild entered into a cooperation agreement in the fields of mergers and acquisitions advisory and equity capital markets advisory in the food and agri-business sectors. It was believed that the move was intended to help Rothschild Continuation Holdings AG gain access to a wider capital pool, enlarging its presence in East Asian markets. Paris Orléans SA is a financial holding company listed on Euronext Paris and controlled by the French and English branch of the Rothschild family. Paris Orléans is the flagship of the Rothschild banking group and controls the Rothschild Group's banking activities including NM Rothschild & Sons and Rothschild & CIE Bank. It has over 2,000 employees. Directors of the company include Eric de Rothschild, Robert de Rothschild, and Count Philippe de Nicolet. NM Rothschild & Sons, an English investment bank, does most of its business as an advisor for mergers and acquisitions. In 2004, the investment bank withdrew from the gold market, a commodity the Rothschild bankers had traded in for 2 centuries. In 2006, it ranked second in UK M&A with deals totaling $104.9 billion. In 2006, the bank recorded a pre-tax annual profit of £83.2 million, with assets of £5.5 billion. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.